It's showtime.
Good morning, Vietnam! Welcome to the party, pal!
See you at the party, Richter!
I didn't kill my wife! I don't care!
Get away from her, you bitch!
I'll be back.
I'll be back.
You did not going to say that, did you? What I do have are a very particular set of skills.
The dude abides.
I'm not bad. I'm just drawn that way.
Inconceivable!
Little Dallas multipass.
This is a tasty burger.
Please.
Want to hear the most annoying sound in the world?
Do or do not. There is no try.
Dead or alive, you are coming with me.
I'm the bad guy?
And hold. Smash.
I can speak with an English accent.
Hit the hash pipe and join the National Guard. I could be elected president.
You went over my helmet?
What would you prefer? Yellow spandex?
I know, right?
The list is in the open!
Hey, where are the white women at?
They're digging in the wrong place.
I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse.
Are you not entertained?
Second start of the right. And straight on till morning.
Meow.
You son of a bitch.
21 gigawatts!
Wax on, wax off.
Oh my goodness, I am sporting a tremendous Woody right now.
Bartender is the aristocrat of the working class.
You want to flip 6 3-hole play and you could score.
Cover me.
Dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria. On this team, we fight for that itch.
It might be a tumor.
It's not a tumor.
No ticket.
No ticket.
I get older, they stay the same age.
It's not what you know, it's what you can prove.
I'm a dude playing a dude disguised as another dude. He's 15.
I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti.
Hope is a good thing, maybe the best of things, and no good thing ever dies.
Good evening, and welcome to the Reel McCoy. I'm your host, Meffistoe, and usually with me, my hetero life mate, Oh My Feelings, but today, we've got a ringer. Today, we're introducing the Outstanding Vet. How are you, sir?
I am outstanding as ever. Yeah, Drew Outstanding on Twitter X. The Outstanding Vet is what I go by. I love pop culture, movies, games, video games. I dive into comics a little bit, but it's not my area expertise. But yeah, animated series, superheroes, movies since the 80s are just my jam.
Nice. What is the Reel McCoy, you might ask? The Reel McCoy is your weekly movie podcast where we ask you to go watch a movie, you watch it, come back to us, and then we break it down for you. This month, because we didn't discuss this backstage, but every single month, we kind of pick a theme to the month. And this entire year, we kind of going back and forth with a lot of these comic book adaptations. So we decided just for fun, to go a little bit rogue and not go the positive way. We're going to go a little bit on the negative side, even though we can find good things in most things, even in the Super Mario Brothers movie, the original.
I love it. Yep. That's my gem.
A lot of people love it. I did not. But this month is for the entirety of the month, we are covering comic book adaptations into movies that were, let's say, less successful. And we're going to start with sort of a movie that nobody really talks to unless you're in certain circles. But we're going to talk about that as well. The movie is called Tank Girl. Now, Andrew, and did you say Andrew? I'm sorry. Drew, sorry.
Yep. It's words spelled backwards.
Drew, how many times have you managed to watch it this week? Because usually my co-host watches it like 2 or 3 times and he is crazy. And I love him for it.
I did not get that
once, right?
I watched it once, like a couple
as a
hours
refresher.
ago. Yep.
Yeah.
I watched it when I was when it came out. I guess when it came out on VHS at the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I watched it when I was like 10 or 11 back then.
Huh.
Yeah. And then again today.
Well, I watched it when it came out. Also watched it on VHS. I don't remember if it even got released over here. And if it did, I was old enough to go and watch it, but I wasn't my kind of movie back in the day. I don't know why it didn't capture, like, it didn't really grab me. In 1995, I was like a teenager, and I went to the theater every other week to go watch something. So it was really, and I had a best friend that we would go to movies all the time. I've discussed this numerous times, and I will discuss it numerous times again. But in 1995, I think that one was a rental.
Okay.
And I did enjoy it back in the day. Did not enjoy it this time around. And I managed to actually watch it twice in honor of my my good co-host, Oh My Feelings, who is away to celebrate his mom's birthday, like he does every single July 4th weekend. Right. Tank Girl. Girl.
I had busy day all yesterday. I was planning on watching it last night, and it just staying up late and watching it. But when I got home, I'm like, I gotta watch Independence Day. I haven't watched it. I watched The Patriot up there, and then I was planning on watching Independence Day. It happened around midnight. And then I remember like the first 20 minutes of it, and then I fell asleep. But yeah, my goal was to do Independence Day and then Tank Girl. And so I saved it for today, I guess.
Well, it's really interesting because we will go into the weeds of this thing, but it really reminded me, especially with the soundtrack, it really dates itself right around 1990s, where it was sort of that transition period where we already got like getting over grunge, getting into more rock, less alt rock, but this was like full alt rock, and we'll touch upon that in a minute. We'll say hello. Yeah.
No, that's great. Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I felt the 90s vibe when it came to that compared to a few other movies of that time. The Rock. I like action movies and stuff like that. So they were talking about grunge, and that came out around that 95 time too. And yeah, it's a wild ride. Blast from the past.
All right. We'll say hello to the chat. We'll say hello to Sandra Hammerschlag.
I lost your volume.
I lost my volume?
It might be me.
It could be you. I don't know. StreamYard, sometimes it's weird.
Yep, I definitely don't hear you.
Okay. It's you. It's you.
It's on me, he's saying.
I'll say hello to the chat. Hi, Sandra Hammerschlag, Griffin, and all the rest of the lurkers who are lurking about. I know Salty Nerd Pod.
Carry on, and I'll figure this out. Give me a moment.
No problem. Say hello to the chat. Salty Nerd Podcast was not broadcasting today because of July 4th. They need a break, and we are here to serve you a little bit of content. It's a sheep problem. It's anyway. We'll start the show like we always start the show, with a little segment called Behind the Screens.
Sound production, take 2.
Behind the Screens is where we turn to me and get the lowdown on everything that is behind the scenes, production-wise, all that good stuff. And hopefully Drew will come back and talk to me about some stuff, because he told me he does know a little bit about things. In 1987, Tank Girl was debuted on a British magazine called Deadline. A year later, after the launch, the publisher, called Tom Astor, already shopped it around for movie rights. Essentially, later on, it was sold for about $25,000, which was cheapest chips. And even though several studios were interested, including New Line Cinema. Oh, hello. Including New Line, hopefully he'll come back. Including New Line Cinema, were kind of involved with the start of the project. However, nothing really panned out, and a lot of studios were apprehensive, especially about the content, because Tank Girl is very R-rated. In the comic book itself is very R-rated, so lots of gore, lots of sex, violence. Here we go.
Gotcha.
You're back?
Yep, I can hear you now. I don't know what happened. Do you know?
Yeah, StreamYard sometimes goes off. Don't worry about it. So I was saying that Tank Girl was an R-rated kind of comic book, And most of the studios were a little bit apprehensive of actually starting the project. And again, this is still sort of, we'll call it 80s mentality of the studios until Miramax kind of went in and kind of jumbled everything, or circa around 1992. But this, again, circled around since 88. Rachel Talalay, which from now on, I will call her either Rachel or the director, because that last name is hilarious and I don't want to say it too many times. But Rachel's stepdaughter, introduced her to the comic. And this is while she was working in her debut film, because she directed Freddy's Dead, The New Nightmare. Okay. Which was the one where you had to go to the theater and wear 3D glasses at some point, which was hella stupid because it did not enhance the viewing, the viewing pleasure, especially not mine. I saw it in the theater when I was way young than I was supposed to.
Was that the red and blue glasses?
Yes, the classic red and blue 3D glasses.
Yeah, I remember those as a kid. But
yeah,
I remember maybe seeing a movie here or there with them, but did not like it. And then later came the, the 3D glasses that they were just clear.
Yeah. Rachel actually, while she was working as the director, approached Tom Astor, who was the publisher of the comic, and he was almost willing to give up on the project. So like keep it as a comic book. And then lo and behold, this director comes in and she, wants to put the stuff together. She approached Amblin Entertainment, which was Spielberg's production company. Yep. Got denied. Universal got denied. She went to Disney and got denied vehemently because Disney back then were a family-oriented company.
Yeah, back then.
Eventually, MGM picked it up. And MGM, like I said, picked it up for cheapest chips. It cost them $25,000 for the rights, and they were happy until they got the bill at the end. But we'll talk about that when we get there. Rachel, the director, worked closely with Alan Martin and Jamie Hewlett, the creators of Tank Girl. However, there was a problem. Now, this movie has got many, many problems, and most of them stem from the push and pull between the studio's vision, the director's vision, and the writers of the creators and the writers of the script. Because Rachel wanted to work with the two creators closely because she wanted to get an authentic feel of Tank Girl. She wanted to actually transfer what you saw in the comic book, watch it in the film. But the studio was like, we want a stripped down version, cut and dry, superhero-esque, play-by-play, three-act kind of a movie.
What were they trying to base it off of? What were they looking for? Would you guess to compare it to? Would you say the studio?
So the whole point of Tank Girl is that she's not really a hero. She's more like a reluctant hero, or even an anti-hero. She's anti-establishment, anti-everything.
Yeah.
So she's not really a let's go beat up water and power. She's more like a leave me alone. I don't want to deal with any of you bitches.
Yeah. I got that too.
That's the comic book. But the studio was like, we need her to kick ass and be the next Ripley, essentially.
Okay. I could see that.
And it doesn't really quite work with the vision that Alan Martin and Jamie Hewlett were envisioning. They were the creators. They did not want this to go down like that.
Yeah, I always wonder what those conversations are like at the pitch meetings or the acceptance or kind of whatever. Be like, here's what we have. Here's what we want to do. And then they're like, great. we want to do something else, but we'll make a deal. Yeah, I always wonder that.
It's really weird because most of the people who actually make those decisions, executive producers, that are like, they're on the studio's employment and they're assigned to a project and they get just, we want this to be in. So they have those talks with the directors, and it could, again, it's a push and pull. What more creative, creative freedom does the director have in which position? What story angle did they want to go with? What did they want to show? What kind of action scenes do they want? Essentially, could be.
And then there's laws too. They're like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. It works in a comic, but we have laws that we got to abide by with, I don't know, unions or that the state or, or to get the ratings of PG-13 R, kind of what have you. There's other overlap.
Essentially that. One of the things that were discussed were there were about 10 scenes that were completely written, ready to go, and they were just ignored, cut, or got the red markers like, no. One of them is a bestiality scene that got cut.
I heard about that.
Put a pin in that. Put a pin in that. We'll get to that.
Are you talking about related to, because rewatching the movie again, they have cut scenes to, cartoons, comic, where it's like,
no.
Okay.
Actual scene.
All right.
To be continued.
Well, I'm just saying, like, with what came out into the film was like, okay, they, they're about to take the plane and the tank back, or, wherever they're going. And then it turns into a cartoon. And I heard that was because they wanted to cut the cost of, I don't know, moving a tank.
That is one of those 10 scenes that they had to, and the creators had to animate for the movie itself, or storyboards for the movie itself, and get it animated because budget issues or studio didn't want that scene, and in the negotiation, in the compromise, okay, we'll just do it animated.
Right.
Yeah. A lot of that happened.
Okay.
Hold on.
Well, I'll keep going and talking about Tank Girl for a little bit and say,
that's my tank boy.
Oh, cool. Tank boy.
He goes to sleep.
There you go.
All right. Next, MGM held an open casting call in New York, LA, and in London. And apparently, 2 or 3 of the Spice Girls showed up. Essentially,
really?
Posh Spice, which is Victoria Beckham, Ginger Spice, Jerry Halliwell, and maybe not confirmed Emma Bunton, who is Baby Spice, the blonde chick.
Yeah.
2 of them, which is Victoria Beckham and Jerry Halliwell, got their photos taken in the lounge, I guess. Some information I can't confirm, but essentially some paparazzi took a picture with both of them in it, sitting in a casting area and waiting to be going into the casting director.
Yeah.
However, apparently later on, the director kind of not confirmed that it was all a PR stunt by MGM to hype up the movie. Because Spice Girls in 1995 were the hottest girls on the planet, right? So getting them to be associated with a movie that is going to come out is insane. Now, they were all going for the Jet Girl situation.
Okay, Naomi Watts.
Position. Because originally there was already a British actress called Emily Lloyd that was cast to the movie. The director essentially wanted her to be in the movie. She underwent 4 months of training. She was slated for the movie. She already started to work on her character. And then the director asked her to cut her hair, to essentially shave it in the middle, because they wanted to, put some extensions, make it look weird. She flat out refused. and she was cut it out, got fired from the movie.
Wow.
Which was a bummer, and also a gift in disguise, because when Lori Petty went out to audition, Rachel loved her and essentially said in an interview, which I've seen a copy of, a quote of, then I actually hunted down the interview, and she said, Lori Petty is as crazy in real life as Tank Girl, so it was a great fit.
Yeah, I followed Lori Petty for a while. One of my favorite movies. A lot of people out there at Point Break, and it's just like it's just such
I
a
love
good
Point Break.
I love Point Break for so many different reasons. The Keanu Reeves part, and Patrick Swayze, Lori Petty's awesome in there. The surfing, Gary Busey, all of it is just amazing. And then you get Fast and Furious in 2000, and I'm like, I've seen this plot before. It's Point Break, but with car racing, and then
with car racing.
And a lot of people have made videos about the connection to the two and everything. But no, she was amazing in Point Break. She was Livewire in the Superman animated series, which I grew up on, and so it was really just similar to Lori's personality, Tank Girl, and I'm like, yep. I'm like, I know that voice as Livewire, as a villain.
Essentially, Lori Petty is as crazy in real life as she was in the movie. Which, to be honest, I'm so happy I'm married to the woman I'm married to. I wouldn't want that crazy in my life.
Yeah, that's a lot to handle. Yeah, and I heard Naomi Watts was, I guess she was like, I'm not saying tough to work with. She was shy, I guess, on set. And so she's looking back now and saying, oh, I wish I would have came out of my bubble. It would have turned into a different performance. I thought the performance was fine, but I guess she went on to do a lot bigger things and kind of break out of her comfort zone.
To be fair, she said she was ashamed of ever being in that movie.
Oh, no.
At all. Yeah.
Okay.
But she went into the casting call, and she went back and forth for about 9 times until she got the role.
Okay.
Essentially, like I said, it's due to them not really settling in on what they want Jet Girl to be, in terms of what kind of character they wanted it to be. This, again, push and pull between director, creator, and studio.
Okay.
Malcoim McDowell is a fascinating casting call. The fact of the matter is, they didn't know what the comic book creators, or essentially Deadline, the magazine, wanted. It's like they asked them, what like magical, like your wishful thinking casting do you want? Now, those are British people. And they essentially said, well, we know you can't get him, but Malcoim McDowell is our like top of the line. That's the actor we envision to be Kelsey.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So,
and he's a great actor.
MGM,
a lot of
MGM
things.
went to Malcoim McDowell and hired him on the spot because he said yes.
Yeah, because he was coming off a Star Trek. I think it was around that time. Star Trek movie.
I think Star Trek was 94. Let's see.
It was something like that where he was known for being that bad guy kind of thing. And I heard something. He was like, yeah, I just wanted to do something that was fun. Like he'll put his, his typical spin on it and then go off.
Yeah, a year prior.
Yeah.
It's Star Trek Generations. It's a year prior. Yeah.
Okay.
And he said he had a great time on set. He had a fantastic time on set. He compared the time he had on the set to Clockwork Orange. And I was like, my guy,
wow,
Clockwork Orange is a masterpiece. Tank Girl, whatever you like it, don't like it, cult classic, whatever you want to call it, ain't not fucking Clockwork Orange.
Not the same thing at all, but I did get a Clockwork. It's funny you mentioned that. I got a Clockwork Orange like a reference when she at the beginning of the movie, she's on that guard duty and she's wearing that hat and everything, and she's got a little bit of makeup like it. I'm like, hey, is that a Clockwork Orange, kind of style? They didn't say anything or do anything like that, but I'm like, oh, cool, I like it.
Well, I might have that on later. We'll see.
Okay.
Now, I don't know if you've noticed or not, but there was a very short cameo by Iggy Pop. He's the guy who wants to take the 10-year-old sister / stepsister of Rebecca, the tank girl.
Yep.
To essentially have his way with her, and she pulls in the orb of justice on him.
Yeah, I did notice it. Well, I looked at IMDb first, and then I saw his name, and then later saw it in the movie.
Yeah, and there was a cameo that got, we'll call it deleted, or in movie references rewritten. But Bjork, the singer Bjork, was supposed to be on. Her character again in that liquid silver place. And her character essentially got deleted, rewritten, given to somebody else, and then completely changed around. Essentially, it was a throwaway line, and they could not afford Bjork.
Okay.
Filming of the entire movie took about 16 weeks, which is, fair amount. It took place in 3 primary locations. One of them was White Sands in New Mexico.
Okay, I've been there
for the dunes.
Backstory: I was in the Army, and then there's a thing called the Baton Death March, where it's done every year. It's meant to recreate a situation in World War II, and so they recreate this. It's basically a marathon, and you do it in this White Sands area, and it's crazy. You're just walking in this sand and rocks and everything, doing a marathon. But yeah, I've been to that location.
I had a stint in when I was getting my sergeant. I had to do a I don't know how to call it in it's essentially you pick up a gurney, put somebody on a gurney, and just walk on the beach. They call it walking. It's not walking, it's running.
Right.
On the beach. So you've got half sand, half water. And I wasn't in no Navy SEALs type of situation. It's just to, acclaim yourself to being a sergeant and doing the rough stuff. But yeah, running or walking on sand with like army boots.
Yeah.
Not fun.
No,
Not
you
fun
can't
at all.
explain it. You can't explain it at all, especially if you get it inside your boot and then you can't stop and take it out. Yeah. It's something you can't explain.
Fun. No. So the whole, every time you see sort of sand area dunes and the first third of the movie, essentially, it's all in New Mexico. They shot a lot of the interiors in an abandoned mall in Phoenix, Arizona. And there were a few locations around Tucson that were used for essentially exterior shots. One of them was in an open pit mine, which they shot a lot of the tank and truck situation, that chase. And in one of those days, they had to stop because there was a chemical leak. So they had to vacate the premises for about 24 hours.
Okay.
Movie stuff like that happened all the time.
Wow.
In terms of the costuming and makeup, essentially the Ripper situation was done by a man called Stan Winston, by his team. Stan Winston, if you know, he did a lot of the Terminator stuff. I think he also did the RoboCop. I am so bad with names. Unless I say the name 10,000 times, I won't remember. If I'm not mistaken, Sander in Hammerschlag in the audience can tell me. Stan Winston is one of the pillars of like makeup and sort of physical effects, real life effects, and
okay. Yeah, some of the people I don't know their name, but I can see their fingerprint on different things. Yeah. The Terminator, RoboCop, like you mentioned.
RoboCop. No, RoboCop is Rob Bottin, another one of those guys. Rob Bottin did.
And
RoboCop.
Sometimes they work together on
Terminator.
one project, and then they go and work on other projects, and then bring in how they collaborated. Kind of like how streamers do.
Yeah. Sandra said mechanical effects, robotics models. Yeah, all of it. He's done all of miniatures, all of that stuff. It was all under him. But this time around, he was in charge of the Ripper suits, which I don't know if you've noticed at the end of the movie, there was a lot of fuck ups. But we'll get to that when we get to that. The soundtrack, we talked about the soundtrack. It was assembled by none other than Courtney Love.
I heard about that.
At some point was slated to be Jet Girl.
Really?
Yes. You know why she dropped out of that? Because her husband dropped a shotgun in his face, essentially. But she came in and she composited a lot of the soundtrack. Again, it's a lot of alt rock. Hall, Bush, Portishead, Bjork.
Yep, I heard Bush. I wrote that down. I'm like, am I sensing some Gavin Rossdale?
Yeah, yep. Gavin Ross, essentially, and a lot of other really obscure people. Also, the band called Devo, which they were big in the 80s. But what they did, they brought them on to do essentially a Soundgarden track with Soundgarden sound, but they couldn't afford actually paying Soundgarden for the license. So Devo had to re-record it as if they were Soundgarden. Really? And it also contained one track by Ice-T, who was one of the Rippers and acted in the movie. And the thing about Ice-T, he was ridiculed for acting in this movie. And there was an interviewer that asked him about it, and the answer he got from Ice-T was, well, I got paid $800,000 for the movie, so
really?
And the questions stopped after that.
Yeah, it's like, why not? Well, but then at the same time, I also heard that he said it's better than being in prison too. So he's like, yeah, I'll get paid and wear the makeup and stuff like that. And he's like, whatever, I'm not complaining.
Yep, essentially. Like I said, there were a lot of scenes that were cut. And this is where that pin that I told you about before, we've gotten to that point. A lot of the scenes were cut due to too graphic, too gory, or too sexual. One of them was a bestiality scene where Booga, played by Joe Pantoliano, had a actual dick made for the suit, for the Ripper suit. Now, it was supposed to be tucked away, sort of hidden, but you see it, but you don't see it, kind of a scene where Lori Petty was supposed to be fully clothed. I don't know what kind of situation. You've seen the dancing bit where it was essentially dry humping, but essentially a scene like that, but more passionate.
Oh no! So a more passionate, sensual thing.
Yes, what we ended up with is her laying next to him in a scene, talking, and essentially it fades out. That's what left of that scene. But essentially, his suit. It was filmed.
It was filmed. Okay.
Cut away.
So
yeah, filmed.
It's funny, like movies back then. It's like a lot of it gets filmed and then left on the editing floor. Anything like that, but nowadays, like everything gets filmed and then there's bloopers and everything like that. So I wonder if that scene wouldn't even got a film today, or maybe it would get filmed today. Who knows?
Through the years, and we've done this for about 4 years. Through the years, I was surprised about stuff that I've learned, and it was commonly available information of a movie that I've seen 10, 20 times. And I just didn't do the research for. When you do the research for, you kind of love the movie more, even though I didn't love this movie. But because I did the research and I know a little bit more about it, I kind of love it in a different sort of way. Yeah. Because a lot of these movies underwent so many shenanigans just to be made. It is essentially a shock that it ever came out. Now,
I've been looking into that. It's like the production from hell type things where it's like, okay, you got this movie that came out. Maybe it's good, maybe it's bad, from what you see at the time. But then you look at, like, I've heard the movie behind the movie, like behind the movie, there's a whole movie, kind of like a Tropic Thunder, I guess, you compare it to.
Tropic Thunder is essentially
Platoon.
Such a smart movie beyond the comedy.
Right.
It is a criticism about Hollywood, essentially the Tom Cruise character. It is showing you all the stuff that is going wrong with scripts, with executives interfering, with a director that doesn't know what to do, all of that stuff, and actors and their facade of being an actor. It's such a great movie beyond being a great comedy. But before I touch upon the budget, is Sunder Hammerschlag did send us that really early before even we got on. As a fun fact, the creator of V-Tank, Jamie Hewlett, one of them, is also the guy behind the visuals and the album designs and videos for the band The Gorillaz, which, cool. If you've seen the comic book and you've seen all the Gorillaz stuff in terms of like visuals, very, very, very alike. Thank you, Sandra.
Wow. That's a good point, because like you see the visuals or music like we talked about and these different things, and when they have it either before a movie like this and incorporate in there, or you have Tank Girl and then it turns around and you get Gorillaz later on. It's fun to make those kind of connections, and that's why, like you said, like you get more of an appreciation for what went into the movie than just the end product.
Yep. Now, the budget for this movie was $25 million. Not cheap change, but it is a moderately budgeted studio movie. And it brought in $6 million in the box office, completely blowing out. Yeah. And a lot of people did not like this movie. However, Tank Girl, which you kind of get it, became a lesbian, we'll call it feminist icon, but more of a lesbian icon, even though she's not lesbian at all. We'll put that aside.
They had a little kiss at the beginning. I know. It was a joke, and she's like, "Oh, it worked," and she's like, "What worked?"
She's bi, Sanders said. Maybe in the comic book, but in the context of the movie itself, she kind of plays with it. In reality, but I get why she became this lesbian icon, essentially.
And that was around the time of like Xena, Warrior Princess, and all that kind of stuff too. Or later on, I guess. Maybe.
I think it's more of if you see a lesbian today, blue-haired, half-shaved head, that sort of a thing, look at Tank Girl, look at what you think about this raging liberal, and you're like, that kind of looks the same. Not really acted the same, but kind of looks the same not in so many ways. All right, cool. We've talked enough. It's time to play a game. And to be honest, I was really surprised that I found a lot of information, because in some movies that are like, oh, this is a well-known movie, there's bound to be plenty of information about that. Couldn't find any. In this movie, a lot of information.
There was a lot. I watched interviews with Malcoim McDowell and Lori Petty where they're really getting into it. She was talking about the R rating. So I don't know if they were trying to go for a PG-13 rating for like the whole time, and then they ended up with an R.
The studio was going, so the studio was going for a PG rating, but essentially they gave up because, again, they had to put in some cases, there are scenes that you just couldn't get away from, because essentially Rebecca goes to find the little girl, and the little girl is in a situation where for the NPAA, it's on the cusp, so they just give it an R. If it's on the cusp of going overboard, they're like, oh, okay, this is not an R, this is like an X or an NC-17, depending on which year it is. All right, cool. We're going to play our first game of the night. It is called Missing Marquee. Missing Marquee for the uninitiated, and for Drew is where we take 10 posters of movies, have their text written off, we display them, and Drew will have to guess which movie this is. And we've got the chat to help you out. Here we go.
Oh, well, the Muppets. I do not recognize this one. Yeah, I mean, you got Miss Piggy and Kermit and all those
Give
other
me a
people on there.
year. Give me a year.
Oh my gosh. 89?
Nope.
Sounds
This is the original Muppet movie.
79.
This is the
Okay.
1979 Muppet movie.
Yep, I've seen it a long time ago. Okay, what do we got here? Oh,
Gary Oldman, if it helps.
It's Gary Oldman.
Mm-hmm.
This is I'm not getting it. I think I'm good with movies, and then I get hit with this stuff. Darkest Hour.
See? The
Okay.
Darkest Hour. Thank
Gary
you,
Oldman,
Senator
huh?
Hammerschlag. Yep.
Ooh. I don't know. I'm guessing Inglourious Bastards.
It is, in fact, Inglourious Bastards.
Oh. This one, okay, I'm gonna say some guesses. It's something I know it's not a Walk to Remember, but I remember it's like Phenomenon or Walk to Remember. It's
Not Phenomenon. That's
Place
with
in the Clouds. Is it A Place in the Clouds? No.
It is
Okay. Keanu Reeves, Sandra
not
Bullock.
a place in the house.
Oh, not The Lake House. Okay.
The Lake House is correct. Paul Harley, thank you.
Oh, okay. Master and Commander.
Master and Commander is correct.
Philadelphia.
Philadelphia is correct.
40-Year-Old Virgin. Maybe we're going
Correct.
Ooh.
Movie
Like-
from 1991, kind of put by the wayside because people didn't like it.
Well, we
I
got
liked
Bruce
it.
Willis, and is that Damon Wayans?
It's
I see a
Damon Wayans.
football and a gun. Gosh, The Last Boy Scout. Okay,
The
I've
Last
heard of
Boy
it.
Scout is correct. Senator
Yeah.
Hammerschlag and
That's-
Paul Harley got
That
it.
wasn't me. Okay, saw this recently again. The Nice Guys.
The Nice Guys is correct.
Ooh, we got a submarine.
It's got not that it
Hints?
helps, but it's got my favorite song of all the Bond movies.
Okay, it is
It is not Octopussy, no.
I've seen the movies. I don't recognize the stuff.
It's Roger Moore and it's Barbara Bach, if it helps. Everybody is stomped in the chat.
I guess so. It's not Octopussy.
It's not for your
Spy Who
eyes
Loved Me.
only. Griffin and Paul Harley have got it. It is The Spy Who Loved Me.
There you go.
That is
I need
it.
a Bond
That is
rewatch.
10.
Good job. That was awesome. That was fun.
Yep. That's what we like to do. Have a little bit of fun before we start into the we've got
Yeah,
this
I
time.
collect physical media garage sales and things like that. So now I got like the movies that I've seen before, and I know, like a Terminator, RoboCop, and then I got movies that I haven't seen. I'm like, I never even seen these movies, and then ones that I completely forgot, like a Tank Girl. So I got to separate up, be like, okay, here's the ones I'm going to watch. Here's the ones I know and I like. So I'm on a
See, now
rewatch it.
now you need to track down The Last Boy Scout.
Okay, I'm gonna write that down.
It's one of those movies that they didn't do so well. Not even in sort of like, because we kind of always talk about this. Some movies don't do so well in the box office, but then when they hit the like physical media, especially back then, home box office essentially, they did gangbusters. One of them is my favorite movie of all time is Shawshank Redemption, which was really was like lukewarm when it comes to like box office, but when it hit home box office, it did so well. It went out of print. They couldn't print enough VHSs in order to get the demand. Yeah, The Last Boy Scout is fun. It's not like you have to see it, but it's one of those Bruce Willis movies where like I want to call this guy John McClane, but I know it's not really John McClane, but he kind of plays a John McClane type character. only a little bit grittier and a little bit rougher around the edges.
Yeah, it's fun that he's known for that because, like, I'd say like 16 Blocks. If you've seen that one.
Oh, it has nothing to do with 16 Blocks.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying, like, you get your cop or your criminal, or you don't know what. So yeah, but I like when he goes off in different things. But yeah, the home box office and physical media, just once it got on there, like, what if somebody asked me my favorite movie, I could say a lot of things, but the one that comes to mind is Fight Club, where it's like that one did horrible in movie theaters, and it's from a book and everything. But once it hit, either I think I got on DVD at the time. I didn't watch it on VHS. I think it was right when DVDs came out, and I saw Fight Club, and I'm like, I'm gonna. I think I just grabbed it from, if you remember, Circuit City. I don't know if you guys had Circuit City.
We didn't, but we got an equivalent.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was like a deal where it's like, okay, you can have a bunch of these movies from this bin for $8 each or something like that. And I picked up Fight Club, and I'm like, this is amazing.
Yeah. We had Tower Records.
Okay.
I think it was a chain. I'm not sure if it was an American chain or not. It's really, it's a little bit queasy.
I remember Tower Records, that was like music plus more things.
Essentially, it was supposed to be only music. So that era of switching over between vinyl and CDs, and then when DVDs, we didn't really have Blockbuster over here. We had a lot of like these local chains. When Blockbuster got in, it was already at the last stages of the VHS.
Yeah.
That Fight Club came out in 2 DVD box set. I'm not surprised. A lot of those early DVDs came out in like 2 discs. Weird.
Yep.
Sort of weird. All right. So Tank Girl starts off with a big montage of sort of like in your face, the comic books. It even has a minuscule shot of a naked Tank Girl, and that's way more of the comic book, where the comic book is way more gory, a lot more sexual, more nudity, all that stuff, and it got very much toned down. Again, essentially no real nudity, just chicks with nipple tassels. That was like the closest, and a guy with his butt, because he was threatened by his girlfriend. That was about it.
I watched it on Amazon today.
It probably got cut from Amazon. I'm not surprised.
And that's the wild thing, is like when you have, I go off on physical media all the time, or digital changes, but it's like
this is the front shot.
Yeah,
that's it. But you do see the back shot too. At least on my copy.
Yeah, this was one of those moments, I think I told you backstage, where I had to like look if my family was like coming in the room and watching this, because like a kid comes in and like interrupts them in their little play there.
But yeah, essentially the first about 40 minutes of the movie is essentially the origin story of Tank Girl, because at that point in time, she's not really Tank Girl yet. Until she gets that transformation, until Jet gets rescued, until all that happens, we just get a little bit of introduction phase, quite a long introduction phase of sort of the origin story. Think of sort of what we got in Iron Man, but without the time changing and not showing you, then going back in time and then re-showing you again. And then essentially he kind of emerges into this Iron Man. In this movie, we kind of get a feel of the world. It's a post-apocalyptic world. There was a meteor gone down, no more water, or water is very scarce. And the people who control 98% of the water is Water and Power. And they have this sort of like twirling mustaches kind of a moment. Ha, 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 ha. We control all of this. And how dare you not control the last 2%? Sort of like it's a Darth Vader moment, or
yeah, I did get Star Wars vibes here, because they called somebody a trooper too, at which, lots of things in film and history, stormtroopers and stuff. But it's like, yeah, I got that kind of Star Wars vibe here. And one guy you're see it in this scene where he's like, we got all but this one area, and then I could see Malcolm McDowell making what is it called? Just making an example of one of his guys.
Yeah, essentially he literally does the force choke on him. And like I said, in terms of iconography, Malcolm McDowell wears blacks, a little bit of whites, but essentially is wearing blacks. Everybody else is wearing gray. Same iconography that you got in Starship Troopers, same iconography that you've got in Star Wars, where the higher officers were all wearing gray. Gray is essentially, these are the bad guys. And the baddest of the guys, not just gray, he is full on black. That's the iconography. So it's a color distinction, and it just moves from movie to movie to movie. And it's sort of a visual cue for the audience to see, that's the bad guy, without him ever saying a word. They toast, and you already know that these are the bad guys. And the fact that they tell you that water and power control 98% of the water, which kind of puts them at a, higher up on the hierarchy of who's in control here.
Yeah, and Malcolm McDowell goes into his monologue and references the Bible and, post-apocalyptic stuff and how things are created, and the body has water in it. I'm like, all right, yep, this is at a Clockwork Orange.
You mentioned Clockwork Orange, and you picked it up real fast. Not only does she wearing the bowler hat, if you look closely, it's really hard for me to, I don't want to punch it real up because, YouTube has a deal with some stuff. She does have those eyebrows on one side.
Oh yeah.
Just to make sure to highlight one eye and not the other eye. Same with Clockwork Orange. I'm not sure. It could be a spur of the moment sort of decision. Oh, we already got Malcolm McDowell. Let's give him a little bit of a homage here.
And that happens too. Yeah, they do those little
all
things.
the time.
I remember. Did you see the John Cena movie called The Marine? It was like a straight to DVD. It was maybe right before streaming or around that time. It was just called The Marine. So they're trying to make John Cena into this like whatever, and it had Robert Patrick in it. Like Robert Patrick, Terminator, all these all the movies today and shows.
Yep.
And so Robert Patrick is going after John Cena, and then or one was running from the other, and they go, yeah, he's like, he won't stop. He's like the Terminator. And then they do this like look from Robert Patrick where he just gives him a look.
Yep. Happens all the time, which is great. I mean, Robert Patrick was and does still have the greatest cameo in movie history, where he stopped Wayne in Wayne's World and he asked him if he's seen that boy, which to me, one of the greatest cameos of all time. And
I wonder how they get away with that.
1 year after, just the 1 year. So essentially, Rebecca gets tossed around. She sees her boyfriend gets killed. She sees her sister. She says sister, but it's not sort of, maybe in the comic book they're related, but I couldn't find anywhere that they were actually related. The fact that she, throughout the movie, Rebecca or Tank Girl, has 80s references to movies and pop culture, and it kept popping all the time. And it was like, I know what she's talking about. And this is supposed to be 2033, but she keeps going like 30 years before. I don't know how old Tank Girl is, but she shouldn't really know anything about like Doris Day or anything about pop culture. But essentially,
it reminded me of Demolition Man, where you get Sandra Bullock, and they gave that away, where she's like, yeah, I'm all about the 80s, it's in the future, but this is my jam, just like we would be like all about the 70s right now or something like that. I get it, but yeah, she it's like she jumped in time and just went straight to 2033 or whatever, because
the timelines don't really fit. It's supposed to be 2033, but the asteroid happened 12 years earlier, which makes it 2019. And she doesn't look 40 to me. She does not look 40 to me. So I don't know. The timelines are a bit off. that's why I have a lot of issues with the movie. The story is pretty basic, but anything in between kind of is a really a jumbled mess of things.
Okay, does that take you out of the movie, or
it
you
does.
just okay?
It
Is
does.
maybe
I'm
that why
very
you
much
don't
of
like
a
it?
I'm very much of a story-driven kind of a guy. I like story and I like characters. Now,
Okay.
if there's a mystery and it's a detective story, all the more while, if it's written correctly, then I'm really interested because I love those. I love detective stories. I like the noir stories even better if it's done correctly. This is not. We couldn't quite fit this one because we already had a sort of a post-apocalyptic dystopian world type of month. Really couldn't fit this one in because we really wanted really good solid movies to talk about, and we both were like, we kind of seen Tank Girl. We're not really high on it, but it always surprises us, both me and my co-host. It always surprises us that some movies that we're really hyped for, we watch and we're like, maybe it's just rose tinted. And some movies we kind of remember them to be bad, but we do find grace in them. This one, I really tried.
Okay.
Like I really tried. There's this moment, for instance, this was actually in the trailer where they wanted to show how badass she is, where she's played the timid or like, okay, I'm gonna let you, I'm gonna suck your dick, essentially. But then when he gets closer, she opens her leg and is like, okay, time to go in. And she grabs his head and clicks it. And it's like, oh, that's a fucking badass moment. But there's lots of badass moments in this movie, but it doesn't really go anywhere. It really doesn't.
Okay,
Like,
I can get that. Yeah, so that's like story and character too. Like when a movie wants to, I like escapism, and I can let some things go. But when they create their own rules, it's like, okay, you're creating, especially at the beginning of the movie, you're creating your rules for me, but you got to abide by them. You can't create rules and then throw them out the window because I'm like, hey, well, you told me earlier, like you said that they were related or they were sisters. Okay, show me something later, like Chekhov's gun type deal. It's like, okay, build it up. Otherwise, you get the throwaway stuff. What gets me is like the timeline things. So yeah, like you said, you tell me it's 2033 and this happened 12 years ago, but now you're referencing obscure things from the 80s, 70s, 90s, early 90s as well.
And there's lots of things that happen, and they really count on the fact that you need to read the comic book or know the comic book. So this shower is okay. You're showering in, I'm guessing, a powder that is supposed to clean you because she's been taken away. She's in the mine. She's working in the mine. We kind of get introduction a little bit to Jet Girl and her situation. The fact that she's a great mechanic, but her boss, essentially now her new boss, because that was the new boss, essentially, she gets hassled, half molested almost, and
all the time,
Tank
like
Girl,
every scene from him.
Yeah, it's so Tank Girl is there, and she's finished her day of working slave labor, and then she gets the shower, and you see her shower in this. Yeah, with I love the Portishead song, by the way. Sanders has said it in the chat. Yes, this is where the Portishead comes in, which to me, I grew up with this stuff, and this puts me smack down. Not even in 1995. This is like 93, 92 type era, like really the start of the 90s, where a lot of like grunge, alt rock, all that stuff, Portishead, the Pixies, Beck, all that stuff came out.
Yeah, Beck. I haven't heard that name in a while. That's a name I haven't heard in a while.
Exactly. That's the entire era. And when you get this, the music is cool. The scene is cool. But when you really think about it, it's like they don't explain anything of this.
Yeah,
and
I wonder
really
if it was either cut out somewhere, or if they just it was from the comic and you just kind of got to go along with it. But it reminds me of, a few different things. Delicing, somebody in the chat said that too. But as well as they didn't have water, so it's like you got to do something. And then being in the army, when we'd be out in the field for 30 days or whatever, we didn't have showers, so you had this powder, that shampoo powder.
Yeah.
That's the first time I used that kind of stuff, and then later I found out people use it more common. But yeah, that just powder shampoo thing. That scene, what I like is they go and they talk about. Did you hear like the rules? Somebody on the announcement, the PA system is talking about the rules of the mine, and they said like something like inmates or prisoners are not allowed to exchange fluids or something with each other. Yeah, I think there was a wall of like rules too.
It's not having sex; it's the fact that they're not supposed to use water as currency. That's the only thing I know, because there's a big billboard that has the rules, and it's more like you can't use water as currency, not the fact that you don't. It's maybe both, but it's not about the sex part.
Right.
Although when she gets into the shower, before the music kind of ramps up, it does say in the background that you have to wear your underwear to take the shower. Again, a lot of that stuff. Massive Attack, that's a name I haven't heard in a while. Thank you, Sander. Kind of reveals you as a dirty European like me.
It was a cool opening though. I heard that, you're getting to where she needs to be for that character arc and hero's journey type deal.
And like I said, this is like almost 30 minutes into the movie, and the only reference between Tank Girl and an actual tank is where she goes into the tank and nearly dies. But her character is like that. She's like throwing everything to the wind. I might die or might not die. Oh, look, I'm almost dead. So sort of like that sort of a thing, where she gets tortured from this moment on. She gets tortured by Kelsey or Casey. Kelsey, we'll call him Kelsey. I'm bad with names. She gets put in a fridge, essentially, and then that doesn't work because she is already fried in her head. And then she gets put in a claustrophobic situation where, again,
she did not like that. I could tell.
She doesn't like it, but it doesn't affect her like he hoped it did affect her. Because when he pulled her out, he told her, "Now say I'm winning," and she's like, "Yeah, I'm winning," and she flipped it on him eventually. Right? She did flip it on him.
You get that at the end.
Yeah.
That scene, what I liked, did it remind you? It reminded me of Deadpool. So the Deadpool #1 movie, where he keeps getting tortured in different kind of way, and then he won't break. They keep up the sarcasm, kind of everything like that, and he's just playing with her. And it's all these tactics, the freezing, the isolation, things like that really have an impact. Just being in the military, you kind of understand why they do certain things or whatever. School, I went to school for law enforcement as well, so like you get a brief understanding of how these tactics work. And then Malcoim McDowell runs into this problem, and he's like, "Great, let's use her for this problem because everything that
the
we tried
Ripper problem
with other people didn't work. The isolation, the cold, making her work. She's just causing problems. So it's like we need to put her somewhere where she can be of value."
And the whole issue is he wants her to not get rid of, but essentially use her as bait for the Rippers. So he plants a device on her. He tells her it's just a tracker. Later on, we kind of realize, oh, it's also a hidden microphone. So they know everything, or he knows everything, and he plans for everything. And he wants her to find the Rippers. And when they tried for the very first time, it doesn't really bode very well, which kind of releases both her and Jet Girl for them to, have a tank, have a craft of sort. Can't even call it a plane. And she, because she's a great technician or a great mechanic, she modifies both the tank, make it go as crazy as Rebecca is, sort of like kooky and all that, and also a supreme death machine. By the way, that back of the tank is like a 67 Cadillac.
Okay.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
The tank itself,
fun.
I don't know what I couldn't find out what model it is, but it's an old it's American made tank. I just don't know the make and model, but it's one of the older ones. And if you know anything about tanks, American tanks, if you look at the tube, if there's the gas, we'll call it a gas chamber. If it's in the middle of the tube, most likely it's an American or Western. If it's closer to the end, it's Soviet Eastern model.
Okay.
So
Wow,
this one was in the middle. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I was more aviation, helicopter kind of guy, but
I'm combat engineer, but we work closely with armor and heavy armor. So tanks and light armor. So that's how they explained it to me. But they do go into this montage where, like you mentioned before, where they used animation, or in this case, they used this animation not only as a transition, but also because of a deleted scene that was cheaper to do as animation, funnily enough. Because they couldn't figure out this whole thing, which makes this animation sort of closer to what you saw in the intro, where it tells you a story, but it also is kind of like this feverish dream kind of sequence, right? Where it just goes all over the place. Plus, it tells you a little bit of the story and the interaction between Tank Girl and Jet Girl.
Yeah, it was a cool team building kind of moment because Tank Girl sees Jet Girl in the jet, and she's like, "Oh crap, they're all dead, but now I got the the plane come over here," and she's ready to fight. And then the girl's like, "Don't shoot." But then she's like, "All right, I'm not going back. You're not going back. You take the tank." And then she F's it up like completely. And then then the story gets going. I like that, that you get the pairing and everything.
Now, all good movies have good like side cameos, but also they've got a side character played by James Hong himself. The Lo Pan appears again. I love James Hong, by the way. Another sort of side character, weird scientist guy. We covered that. He had essentially the same role in Blade Runner, where he was the guy who created eyes for the replicants.
Right.
And in this one, he creates the arm and the hologram head for Kelsey. James Hong.
And that's what I heard in one of the interviews. Tank Girl, what's her name? She's like
Lori Petty.
Yeah, she's like, yeah, I keep killing Malcolm McDowell and he keeps coming back.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh yeah, that did happen.
Essentially, she killed him about 3 times until he's actually dead.
Right.
And one of them, she didn't really kill him. It's the Rippers that ripped his arm in his face.
Yeah.
So before our two heroine get to the Rippers, we do have we'll call it a side quest, I guess. They get to this place where this weird girl who was supposed to be Bjork.
Okay, this was supposed to be Bjork, huh?
She's the one who essentially gives them an exposition dump, because she tells them a little bit about the Rippers, the fact that she's working with them, not really working with them, but also she knows exactly where the little girl is in the silver sands or the liquid sands or that sort of a thing. And it's like, you know what they do with little girls over there. Sort of like everybody's supposed to know what is that place and how it actually does work. And the weird part is this was supposed to be Bjork, got changed, rewritten, and then essentially the next scene is that place with a Bjork song.
Okay. So if you can't get Bjork, then you get the song.
Exactly. But this is after you got the sort of like the modification, and you've got, I don't want to say a montage, but essentially we get a tank girl montage. This one was, I don't know what they were going for with the scene. This mimics the intro in a way and that whole animation with Jet Girl.
Yeah.
But it's real life. Really is. It's about 2 minutes of a filler, to be honest. And this movie is an hour 44 plus credits plus everything. And this is 2 minutes of absolutely nothing that you could have done with a little bit more of, I don't know, something.
I wonder if it was a filler because that they cut out other things. You know, it's like, okay, we had to cut, and now we have to add in or extend things.
It's really hard to say.
Yeah.
Where you don't have any information. It's really, really hard to say. Now, there's a few scenes here where there's fake boobies on screen, so I can't really show. So I'm gonna jump in. Now, there's 2 moments in this where Tank Girl goes into this room where she's supposed to dress up like a local stripper / hooker. And there's that AI that tells her how to dress. I can't show that room. It's fake boobies, but the YouTube gods don't care, or the YouTube algorithm doesn't really care. But essentially,
differentiate between fake
there's
and real.
sort of we'll call it a scene of a girl dressing up scene, like you see in many other, we'll call it chick flicks, where they go into the booth and they come out and they have this sort of outfit, and then they go back and sort of like back and forth and like, oh, this is the outfit I want. And then she goes out with this crazy, sort of dominatrix style outfit where everybody there who's supposed to be like a hooker or a stripper is dressed in all white. All the customers in all white, and she's like in black. Like, not really the opposite side of the madam, but sort of like a twisted side of a madam she's also in black, but she's wearing these feathers and velvet and kind of looks like a sort of like an old school type of madam. And
Right.
Here you've got this 90s grunge, down and dirty kind of tank girl madam style outfit. I don't know how to explain it more than that. But then, of course, you get the Iggy Pop cameo with the little girl
appearance of
which was this was a little bit disturbing, but this is the stuff Iggy Pop used to do a lot. He does that every so often in a movie where he plays the, like, not really the villain, but the crazy motherfucker. Have you seen the movie Cry Baby with Johnny Depp?
Oh, a long time ago. Kind of like this one.
He plays his like stepfather. Also really kind of looks like this character, but it's not, they're not the same. It really is not the same character, but it's essentially Iggy Pop doing Iggy Pop stuff.
Okay. And that was,
All
that
right.
happened a lot around that time, that late 80s, 90s, early 90s, that like pretty much
All throughout the
85
90s. Yeah.
Yeah. Where it was like was it Sting? No, David Bowie.
David Bowie did a lot of those. Yeah.
David Bowie did
Yeah.
a bunch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Labyrinth and everything. It was fun. I wonder how that works. They're like, you're good at singing and performing, and we got this goofy tank girl comic thing. Do you want to be a part of it?
And he essentially said, yeah, dude, he had what, a day of shooting? That's about it. Well,
Yeah,
he
I wonder how that
essentially
works.
Has
Like,
a couple lines.
how much money do they get for like a day of work? And then, but is it going to have a positive impact on your career, your music career, or a negative impact?
Essentially, a lot of these sort of pop stars or rock stars or whatever, sometimes they do it for free. Sometimes they do it on scale, which is not a lot. It could be like $1,000 a day plus food, plus if they have a line, they get not residuals. You get residuals for life. So they get $1 a year for the rest of their lives. But it adds up. If you've got like 10 credits and you get like $3 a year from each movie because you had a line in them, it's like three. Okay, that's not a lot. You can't live off of that.
Is Red Hot Chili Peppers. Oh, come back to Point Break. So yeah, Anthony Kiedis. I don't know if the other ones were in that one too, but yeah, they were in Point Break as like the fighters, where they get Keanu Reeves gets jumped, and then I saw him like later in. Have you seen the obscure movie? I'm blanking on the name now, but it was like Charlie. I'm doing a live stream blank, but The Chase. Okay. I want to say The Chase. Yeah, Charlie Sheen and a few other ones, but it was Anthony Kiedis and it was Flea as well, and they're in this big monster
Flea.
truck.
You have to remember this. Flea gets residuals from both Back to the Future 2 and Back to the Future 3, essentially playing the same character. In Back to the Future 2, he's the old, and Back to the Future 3, he's the young.
Yeah. So that's like winning the lottery. So you do something small and you have no idea if it's going to get picked up or become a cult classic or whatever. But yeah, that's a cool way to think about it.
Now, again, I talked about the filler when it comes to that tank girl, with the tank kind of situation. And this is like Tank Girl, the musical, for some reason, for a couple of minutes. And it contributes nothing to the story, nothing to the character. We already know she's crazy. But they go on this musical bit, like 60s, 70s style musical bit where you've seen it in a Mel Brooks fucking movie in Blazing Saddles. Right. Kind of the same type of scene. And you're like, where is this going? And this kind of scene drove me crazy. I can't stand where a movie does this. Like, there's a directorial reason why it happens or a creative reason why it happens, but it really doesn't mesh with the entire story that you're trying to tell, or at least to me, it doesn't really mesh.
Yeah, I couldn't connect it as well. It's like, okay, maybe it's adding to the character, but like you said, we already know she's crazy. There's been a ton of scenes that kind of show this. Yeah. Maybe it's just a hodgepodge, like this movie. Like I said, I haven't revisited. When you said Tank Girl, and I'm like, yep, I saw that in like 96 or whatever it was. And that was it. I never went back to it. Friends didn't have it on when I was over. I don't know if we even could find it on TV. Like it wasn't one of those TBS or TNT kind of cable.
It was on my Netflix about a year and a half ago that I remember it was. And I was like, okay. I'm going to put a mental note. But on my Netflix, because it's different from region to region. On my Netflix, it's like they license a few movies for about 3-4 months, and then they replace them and change them and all that stuff. I can tell
when a movie's hard to find because for one, I looked it up online. It's like, where can I watch Tank Girl? And it said Amazon. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go into my Amazon, and I started spelling TAN, and it wasn't coming up. All these other movies related to tanks that Tank wasn't even in their name came up. It wasn't until I said TANK space G, and then it was the first one. I'm like, okay, they're hiding this, not hiding, but there's more things that they're highlighting than this one. But
I don't know why. Like I said, it's a LGBTQIA favorite or cult classic. So and you never know with Amazon. It's like depending on which side of the fence or the wind blows, they're going in that direction. I have no idea. I'm just glad you can watch it somewhere where it's legal. essentially, if you can. If not, you can always, hop on a boat, and fire up the cannons and shit. Anyway,
Right.
so the two girls get separated from the little girl that they were trying to save, but water and power shows up. Everything goes crazy. They lose the girl, and for some reason, I don't know if you've noticed it or not, Tank Girl runs to the craft, the plane thing, and there's lots of soldiers around. Nobody's shooting her or taking her prisoner. She just, I don't remember the little girl's name. Oh, no, don't take her away. And they take her away. So he decides, we'll just find those rippers. That leap of logic made no sense to me. They finally find the reapers, and what they deal with is kangaroo people who give them nitrous oxide, because essentially nitrous oxide is a truth gas.
Yeah.
I was like, they put that for your teeth, right? To not numb you, but make you not essentially it numbs you to the pain, but it makes you forget you even experiencing pain. That's why they use nitrous oxide, because it makes you loopy. And they do make the girls loopy. You would expect them to act that way, and they don't really care. They're around a bunch of fucking kangaroo human people.
Yeah, like seeing it originally, that's what kind of took me out of the movie, or at least because like at the time I was watching Commando, and like we're talking about Terminator and all these things. I'm like, okay, this is gonna be a action goofy movie, and then I'm like, okay, kangaroo people, huh? That's what we're doing now. Because I don't remember seeing this part in the trailer at the time in the 90s, and then revisiting this again, I'm like, okay. And there was another one that came out a couple years after this with the Warriors of Virtue. I want to say, I'm jumping at the name, and it was similar kangaroo type people.
It's like Alex Jones used to say, human animal hybrids. And they so essentially this is not a new thing about like crossing certain animals with humans in terms of DNA to get a super soldier. Right. Not a new concept. It's been going on since, I don't know, the 60s or whatever. But essentially, in this world, a guy called Johnny Prophet, which gets introduced right at the beginning, but doesn't really appear. And when he does, he's dead. Because, the microphone is there on her. It's supposed to be the tracker. Kelsey already knows. So the shipment of guns that these kangaroo people, they don't trust Tank Girl and Jet Girl because they're human. They send them off to do a mission. And the mission is first is like surveillance. And then it's like, okay, this is not enough. And they go in, you have to film the guns in order for us to trust you that it is a gun shipment. And the fact that I want to move a little bit forward, the fact that they're going in and pull a fashion show routine.
Yeah. Another one that just kind of took me out of it.
Yeah, me too. Now, essentially, it has a little bit of backing in terms of what's going on in the comic book, because she does do that in the comic book. Just fits one situation and into another situation. Essentially, and you also saw when they shot them, they had the animated Mr. August or Mr. March or whatever it was that kind of accompanied the movie. That's not from the comic book. That was done for the movie itself.
Okay.
But it is in line with the spirit of the comic book. That's why it's there. And again, it's one of those things where they work with the original creators, the director worked with the original creators to make it look like it's their own creation. And kind of support the movie supports the comic book supports the movie kind of a thing. It didn't quite fit, but it did fit in certain ways.
Yeah,
and the fact
it wasn't my thing. I think we talked about that before. It's like I can see how some people would like it. Not really my deal.
To me, it really reminded me, and again, it's a movie that came out 2 years after this. It's the Austin Powers taking a picture, and then he says like, no, right? That moment almost slightly happened in this moment because Tank Girl kind of realized, yeah, we need to get the fuck out of here. And Jet Girl is like, I'm in the moment. I was like, do it, right?
Yeah,
she was so against it and so shy, but then she got pushed into it, and now she just cannot stop.
Well, yeah, you got to know when you want to get out of something. It's like,
yeah,
it's funny. They're actors, obviously, and then they're acting in the movie, a movie within acting within acting, and then it's like, when do you turn it off? Like, when do you? It's like, okay, we got what we came for, but now we have to do our planned exit where it's not going to be obvious.
Yeah, and the fact that she invoked like Madonna's Vogue for some reason, and again, the timelines don't match. Vogue was like 92, 90-ish, something like that. So that crossover between pop Madonna and erotica Madonna. I'm not even like thinking about 88.
I know,
right?
like we lived this time, and we don't even remember exactly when it was, or what that was going on. But she's supposed to be in 2033.
Yeah,
and remember
it just
that's what takes me out of it.
It just sometimes didn't fit because they didn't think about what's going to happen in pop culture in like 40 years from that moment, or 30 years from that moment. And I was like, well, to be honest, we have a lot of 80s retro right about this time, so they didn't quite,
but it's a mixture.
But remember,
this is
but this is 12 years after an asteroid fell. So there's a decade gap of total dystopia and people dying left and right, and there's no water, or there's scarcity of water. So there's a lot of problems. People don't deal with pop culture. We're in survival mode. That's why Tank Girl
and that's
is
what
so
makes her
unique in terms of character.
You hit on it right there. It's like she's unique because everyone else is trying to survive, or the asshole guys are trying to eat and do worse things to people. And so it's like, and then you get some people that just want to party and everything like that. But yeah, she's she'd be a crazy person in any generation.
Yes,
but she's even more crazy in this situation. But they just don't know what to do with her. Like Malcolm McDowell is like, I don't know what to do with this freaking one person. And then you don't want to make them a martyr at the same time. It's like, if she didn't make a big impact at the beginning, but even if she would be like, oh, I got rid of her, and so it might cause more people to do a rebellion.
So the whole dancing bit with the kangaroo people, the Rippers, we'll call them the Rippers because it's not really fair. There are moments where like, okay, I get it. They're having fun. They're dancing. There's always the curmudgeon, Ice-T, the crab apple and the entire group. And it's like, what were you before? A cop. Now, this is 95 Ice-T. This is before he was on Law and Order for like 27 years.
Right.
He was known, dude, he is the cop killer song guy. He's body count guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that was Ice-T back then. This is like Ice-T. I'm not even sure when was New Jack City. When was New Jack City?
Around
93?
That time. Yeah, 93.
So he was a cop in New Jack City, but he was also like anti-establishment kind of a guy. It's like
that's why it's wild. Like,
yeah,
what he did before he became an actor, and then he's doing music, or where do you start with Ice-T? His real life, and then music, and then these films like New Jack City, Tank Girl, whatever else he did, in prison too, like we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
And then you get him in Law and Order for, like what you said, decades.
Around 20, 25, 27
like he
years.
spent more time learning about being a police officer than actual police officers. It's why, obviously not the same thing, but he's been in that mindset. It's almost like, okay, you did all these crimes, now we're going to sentence you to become a cop on TV for 50 years. It's wild. Yeah.
All right. And this is where Tank Girl has that interaction with Booga, we'll call it the stupid one, I guess. And if you notice, they've divided the kangaroo, the Rippers, into like sort of almost the Seven Dwarfs type characters, where you've got Dopey and Sleepy and Angry and that sort of a thing, and a lot of like roles that are defined, but it's not really defined, right? Right. So before we get into the final kind of final scene or final act, we'll call it the third act, we are going to stop and play our second game of the night. It is called Screen Fighter.
Round 1, fight.
Screen Fighter is where we take two movies, pit them together, and see which one is the best one. If there's no discernible difference between the two, both of them are good or both of them are bad, we fall into our criteria, which is Friday evening, Saturday evening, out with the girls, out with the boys, out with your significant other. Two movies in a vacuum. Which one will we pop in? Ba-blam! Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse or 8 Mile? Chat participation is most welcome. Drew, you have the floor.
Yeah, so I've seen both of them. So there you go. I got that. And it was that the question is like, what are you going to watch on a Friday night?
Which one do you prefer? Which one is the better movie? Which one will you pick by your own standards and,
okay,
and my sort of like guidelines?
Yeah, like both of them, they're good movies, completely separate. And I've seen, I want to say I've seen them both one time, and I don't know if I would just go back and rewatch them, just for funsies, if I had them. But if I'm just throwing one of them on, I'm grabbing between the two of them. I'm probably going to do 8 Mile. Yeah, just to see you an update of what's going on, comparing Eminem to back then and everything like that. I'm going 8 Mile.
I'm gonna get 8 Mile too, because I don't know, mom's spaghetti.
I like the character development. I mean, obviously Spider-Man has character development too, but like I like the origin stories and the character's journey and everything. So both of them have that, but that 8 Mile is, yeah.
I could not stand 20 minutes of Into the Spider-Verse.
Okay.
I could not. I don't care about Miles Morales, Spider-Man. I don't care about that shit. The animation was not for me, and the stupidity of the characters was not for me. Anyway, Pee-wee's Big Adventure or Terminator Salvation.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, just starting with Terminator Salvation, it gets a lot of hate, but as like the other horrible ones kind of keep going on, I gravitate more towards it. Like this was a movie that I wanted to see, before it came out, be like, yeah, show me what Judgment or post Judgment Day, kind of looks like. I want to see that. And it didn't execute very well. And I like it more and more the more I watch it nowadays, especially compared to the other crappy ones. But and this is another one where I think we talked about that. It's like behind the scenes. I wonder to be a fly on the wall and see what it took to make this, because you get that outcut or that blooper with Christian Bale just yelling at somebody, and that's like kind of everywhere. Yeah, yep. That one's fun. Pee-wee's Big Adventure. I grew up on this movie as a kid. You were a little bit older than me at the time, but I love this movie. Probably watched it 1,000 times with daycare providers and stuff like that. It was just always on. I need to go back and watch it again to see how it's different. But man, if I'm grabbing a movie, it's going to be Terminator Salvation.
I'm going to take Terminator Terminator Salvation, which is the third best of the Terminator series by far.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty low down there, but of the everything that we've got, T2.
Yeah, do you go T1, T2 at best, or you don't
T2 is
T2,
my favorite.
T1?
I know some people love T1 better.
They're two different movies that like similar to Alien, and I know everyone's talked about this, but Alien and
Aliens are not.
There's
not
action
the
and then there's
same type of exactly.
Yep.
I prefer T2. T2 is my favorite. Then Terminator Salvation. Then anything else is just fucking crap.
Yeah, I try to do
I
it
can
on
forgive
a
a lot of things in Terminator Salvation. It's not bad. It's just not a Terminator movie. That's the problem. Pee Wee Herman, I understand it's an iconic character and it's an iconic movie. I didn't grow up with Pee Wee Herman. I knew of it, and I've seen the movie, and I've seen it more than 3 times. It never spoke to me.
Okay.
Ever.
It did
Terminator
for me,
Salvation.
like I said, I grew up on it. It's funny, the weird scenes, the Americana, the Alamo. Yeah, the rich kid, all that kind of stuff. It's just it's
all right.
Just an American movie.
The other movie I didn't see is Silent Something. I didn't watch it. Kung Fu Panda or the original Manchurian Candidate from '62. I hope you watched it. And if you didn't, it's okay. I'll just flip it over.
I didn't. I've seen Kung Fu Panda. I haven't seen I've seen the remake of the Manchurian Candidate.
Midnight in Paris or Kung Fu Panda.
I've not seen Midnight in Paris.
All right.
Like, is that Robert Redford or not?
And it's Owen Wilson.
Oh no, I have not seen Gandhi.
It's Gandhi. Sorry, it's the better movie. Okay. Coneheads or Attack the Block.
I don't know what Attack the Block is.
Wow, really? Okay.
Yeah, Coneheads is amazing.
Crimes and Misdemeanors.
Okay, I have seen it.
Woody Allen movie.
Yeah, it's a Woody Allen movie.
Yeah.
I've seen it. It's fine. Coneheads is what I'm going for. I love that
Coneheads
90s comedy.
Easy. And you know why? Because Crimes and Misdemeanors is just boring.
Yep.
It's not a fun movie. It's just boring. The Bridge on the River Kwai or Hard Candy. I haven't seen Hard Candy. This was back when Ellen Page was Ellen Page. Oh, this is better.
Yep.
The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo or The Bridge on the River Kwai.
Haven't seen the Bridge on the River Kwai. I should watch more military type movies, but yeah.
I'll make an exception this one because I know a lot of my audience that are here are like big movie fans. The Bridge on the River Kwai is an iconic movie. It doesn't hold up. I've seen it recently, like a year and a half ago. It doesn't hold up. The story is solid. The movie is not as good as you remember it.
Okay.
I've seen it more than once in my life. I've watched a lot of old war movies when I was a kid, like 12, 13 years old. It's like because I was into the subject at a certain point in time. So I watched a lot of these old war movies. It really doesn't hold up, especially because the storytelling is supremely slow, like very, very slow.
Okay.
Even compared to like, have you seen The Great Escape, the original Great Escape?
I like that one. Yeah.
In The Great Escape, also very sluggish. It takes a lot of time to get going. It's even faster, like it's faster than The Bridge on the River Kwai, which is it's a shame. Girl with a Dragon Tattoo is a great mystery detective story hidden in a lot of like new age stuff.
Yeah, who was the director on that again? Is that David Fincher? I can't remember.
I'm
I'm
think
probably
it's
wrong.
Fincher. I don't remember.
But yeah,
The
I love
Raid.
the
Okay.
psychological thrillers. Yeah, that Fight Club style. I just love it.
The Raid or the Panic Room, and that's going to be our last.
Okay.
Couple.
I would say the Raid. Yeah. I mean, Panic Room, that was a one and done for me. Cool concept, but I can watch the Raid over and over again. Just more action. I'm grabbing that one, especially if somebody has seen it
I've only
before.
seen the Raid once, and this is because of my good buddy, All My Feelings, my co-host. He's like, you haven't seen the Raid? I was like, I'm not into like Korean stuff. Watch the Raid. And a lot of other Korean movies, like, you have to watch this. It's like, okay, you never failed me. Watch the Raid. The Raid is not my type of movie, but it's way better constructed, has a way more solid story than Panic Room. Panic Room, not good. I've seen it recently. I was like, it was on. My wife was started to watch it, and I like passed through the living room to get to the kitchen, and I was like, really, Panic Room now? And my wife said, yeah, I'm gonna watch it. It's like, sat down and watched it with her. At a certain point, I was like, I don't need to watch this anymore. I remember it.
Yeah, especially if
I
you
didn't like
already
it
know
originally.
what happens. Yeah.
It doesn't really hold up.
I just remember in Dark Knight when Joker's coming into the building and Bruce goes into the room and she's like, you got a panic room? Let us in. And he's like, nope.
Yeah. That essentially, yeah. All right, cool. Let me bring up the movie. So there's a plan hatching. The Rippers and Tank Girl and Jet Girl are planning to get into this facility. Not really knowing what was going on, because Tank Girl goes in there to rescue her alleged sister. I don't know why the Rippers are going in there. They have no motive in going there. I don't know why they are helping her. Essentially for revenge, because before this moment, Tank Girl got all the crates. They opened up the crates and they found out, oh, Johnny Prophet is dead in there. Essentially got shriveled up because of those, the bottles that they put on to people and they extract water. And I watched this with my wife, and I told my wife, as soon as the first bottle went into the first person, I told her, look, there's supposed to be way more water in that bottle because the guy is what, 180?
Are you talking about the military guy early on?
The military guy is like a 180 type of dude. Yep. 70% is supposed to be water. Let's say they extract 60%. Supposed to be way more water, but
that's what tears me out of it.
No, this is where I can suspend my disbelief. It's like, okay, I get it. They can't extract the entire, like all the water in all the cells. So it gets like a liter, essentially a liter of, or like a 40 ounce. Okay. I get it. I can suspend my disbelief. This is a comic book thing. It's a movie thing. I don't want to go like, oh, this is not like scientifically sound. I'm fine with it. It's the other bits that were like, did not make sense to me in terms of why is this happening right now? The montage, the chorus line, that sort of a thing. And to me, the story points in this point does not make sense because they go into the lion's den on a revenge thing, which they don't explain it's a revenge thing. They just say, we will help you. To Tank Girl, we will help you extract your loved one, essentially.
But that's kind of wild because, like, okay, I'm willing to help you, but it's like, what are you agreeing to? It's like, how many of my people do I have to sacrifice? What exactly are we gonna do? You got to have a better idea of that, because it's like, okay, what's kind of like the Han Solo, Star Wars, be like, yeah, let's make a deal. And then it's like, okay, now it's getting a little bit more crazy. We need to change
I'm
the deal.
bailing. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd be like, all right, like I did my duty. Like I finished our agreement that what we said to. Now I'm going to take off to, Princess Leia or whatever. But, and then you get that return,
Yeah. The redemption.
Yeah. Redemption arc. And
now the tube goes into play again, but this time he pours water in there to drown her because water is so goddamn scarce. It used as a death machine.
I know. That's where it tears me out of it. It's like, see, you talk about story or like the clips and everything. For me, it's like when you tell me something in a movie, don't go back on it later. If you tell me water is scarce, or what gets me is like bullets and everything, not maybe a little bit with this movie. It's like, okay, post-apocalyptic resources, ammo is going to be scarce. Or tell me that you got like a factory that makes 1 million bullets a day or something like that. I don't know. But yeah, just being in the military, you don't waste ammo if it's not going to, if you have to be there for another 2 weeks or something.
Those are the things that people who went through the military, if they see those things in movies, especially like in the 80s, and to be fair, it lingered on in movies. A lot of the stuff are like, okay, I know that guns don't have a shit ton of fire coming out of them when you shoot them. Okay, it's again, it's a suspense of disbelief, because when a gun is fired and you don't see it firing, the eye doesn't think the bullet got fired. That's why when they shoot a bullet in a movie, you see fire going all over the place. That's the reason.
I can take that stuff, but if they're gonna deviate from reality, I need a throwaway line. Like I need to know that we're not in our normal reality, even though they're using topics that we can.
I can even think about, like in Mad Max. The problem in Mad Max is the fact that there's no food, or no available food, no available water, and no available gas. Now, here you've got tanks going all over the place, fucking armored trucks, and like crafts, like aircrafts.
Yep.
I can even suspend my disbelief with that, where I can say, well, there's not a lot of people left, and when people died off, nobody's using gas anymore. So you've got gas depots all over the place, and you've got readily supplied gas. Water, I can get, where it's like, okay, it wiped all the water from the earth. Okay, we've got scarcity of food. Okay, I get that. So bullets is one thing. And the one thing that really ticked me off, where do they make all the cigarettes that they keep smoking?
I was wondering that too.
You see no packets. The cigarettes just appear out of nowhere.
Yep.
And again, I get it. It's a comic book adaptation. But this is not a comic book. This is a movie. You need to have a little bit of reasoning of where it comes from. Oh, she's got like a hidden pocket.
Yep.
I get it.
That's
hidden
it.
pocket.
Tell me something like that.
Hidden lighter, hidden, like the old sort of like the cigarette boxes that they used to have. I get it. Show it once and you're like, okay, she's got a box of cigarettes. It's got like 30 cigarettes. You don't see her smoke all the time. You see her smoke from time to time. I get it. She's got enough. She rolled it herself because it's like a red cigarette. I get it. She's got a red paper. I get it. It really is down to show it once and you're done. She keeps coming up with these cigarettes all over the place, and like, it drives me crazy. I know
it's not
such a simple
real
thing.
life, and we know the difference, because when you make a movie, I'm blanking on a good movie that has it, where it's just like you can understand, we're in the similar reality, but it's like, okay, I'm just gonna pull out a mallet, out of my back pocket. It's like, no, like it's either this is somewhat real or it's completely, coma fever dream stuff. You got to tell me, is it based in reality or is it coma fever dream? And this is supposed to be somewhat based in reality with, obviously some goofy things.
Now I'll give props to Malcolm McDowell's character. At this point in time, you don't see him get his head cut off, but you do see James Hong's character get a big scissors. It goes off screen and you hear the crunch and the sort of like the EKG kind of flat lines. So you do get the fact that, okay, he cut off his head. How does he live? Also, he shows the robotic hand. We know he's installing this robotic hand. So we know that it is happening. The fact that he reveals his head to be a hologram. Okay, there's a progression here. We know why this guy turned into this, again, the Darth Vader thing, half man, half machine type of villain who is also dressed in black. I get it. The other things it's beyond the suspense of disbelief. That's why those little tiny holes just kept popping up and make me go like, oh.
And that's the thing. It's like baseball. Like I can take a couple of these plot holes, but then when they add up, and then it's just like, okay, it's enough where it's like, I don't believe it anymore. I don't believe anything.
Yeah. And the fact that he kept dying, and at one point she fired a bunch of full beer cans at him. It's like, okay, she just found this case and now she's like out of bullets, so she fires this cans. It's in line with the comic book, where the comic book just goes crazy. She treats the tank with a mechanical thing that does not have AI as if it was like this, her magical steed. Same way as she treated the ox at the beginning, where the ox got killed, but it's sort of the tank is sort of a replacement. You see the parallels where it goes from one to the other. That's fine. That's okay. That's a comic book thing. I get it from the start. It's set up because of the bull, and it got transferred into the tank, where the tank suddenly has this sort of like AI spirit within it. I get it. It's whimsical. It's fun. What makes a comic book, a crazy comic book like this, work. Think of you mentioned Deadpool. Very much like this Deadpool type of character, where everything is, two shits to the wind and anything can happen. I get it. That point I like. The fact that she like, I'm out of ammo. What I'm going to do? I'm going to fire beer cans that explode and have liquids in them. That's why he gets electrocuted even more, because he's half mechanical. Works well within the story. Perfect.
Yeah, because we can understand combination of things.
Yes.
We understand to an extent. And even with TV shows where you flush the toilet and now the dad upstairs is getting cold water or hot water or whatever. It's like some things you like. I really believed that as a kid. I believed every time you flushed a toilet, everyone else in the house is getting a different thing, until you realize it's not quite true. It's a little bit true, but not quite true. And it depends on, if you're in an apartment or a house or a whatever. Yeah. But some of these things are just so far out there. There's just like, hey, I can't believe you.
Yeah. And the fact that it all gets wrapped up very neatly.
Yeah.
With Booga having the officer hat on his head. That just killed me. I laughed out loud when he comes up with that. Just the hat. It doesn't really matter what was going on. But it really gets neatly wrapped up as soon as the head honcho is dead. Everybody else there is just knows the power has been shifted. So they're not firing at them for something. They're not fighting them, essentially. And
yeah, and that's kind of a trope. I wonder how true that would be, and maybe you could think of a different movie where it wasn't like that, where it's just a power vacuum. Because
no, it's a trope.
okay, the leader goes out, but now we're all gonna go for it. Because like I could see the other lieutenants or whatever. It's like, nope, he's gone, but now I'm gonna take you out, like Tank Girl and stuff like that.
The point is, they've already set this up because the guy, the second in command, the guy who got the command after the first guy got, bottled, we'll call it.
Bottled. I like it.
Yeah. He was loyal up to a certain point, and when he saw the main guy's dead, it was like, okay, I'm just gonna like run because I don't want to die. Because they're all essentially cowards. The only guy who was, we'll call it brave, is Kelsey. The only guy. Or is it Kesley or Kelsey? I need to check later. Really doesn't matter. Malcolm McDowell's character. He's the only guy who was brave or brazen to do stuff. And the other guys were just following along. And the fact that we'll call them the troopers, essentially when there's no chain of command, they're like, okay, we're just not going to fire because we know the power has shifted.
And it's a trope, but that's where I lose it, because just the military experience, just because you take out the one leader doesn't mean everyone's just going to follow the new who's ever attacking. I could see it maybe as an act and be like, all right, we'll act like you won, but behind the scenes, we're going to slowly take you out again. I just wonder with like and you can think about Star Wars like with that too, like Return of the Jedi, Darth Vader goes down, Emperor goes down, and then what happens, Well, I don't know. I don't want to talk about the sequel trilogy. It just hurts my brain. Yeah, I know. But it's just like, it won't be the good guys just take over. There's going to be some kind of thing. And that's the movie that I wish I would have saw, is like the impact of all that right afterwards.
And essentially, it really does wrap up a little bit too neatly with a bow, with essentially a Tank Girl kissing Booga and cut to like half an animation, half a few scenes with, with the two of them and her with the tank, and credits. That's it. It really does feel like the studio wanted to have this happy ending type movie. And this is a theme that we've covered in quite a few movies, where we kind of get a notion that it's going to go dark a little bit, but then the studio kind of pulls it back.
You think so?
The studio's like, we can't have a movie that ends badly because A, B, C, D, the I don't know, PR, or it didn't quite go well with the test audience. That's sort of.
I wonder why, because like some of the really great, maybe it's if they could do it well or not, but yeah, some of the great movies, it ends badly. I just watched one recently. I think it's a newer movie. It's called Slingshot. Have you seen that one or heard? You probably never heard of it. It's
I know Sling Blade.
Yeah, no. This is like a space movie. They got to use quickly Jupiter's orbit to shoot farther past Jupiter. And it's like the whole thing is like in a small area. It's just on a ship. And so it's like Lawrence Fishburne and two other guys. And it's all about if they're going crazy or not, jumping in and out of hyperspace. And then I'm thinking the movie's going to go a certain way, and then it doesn't. And then it kind of goes back and forth. And then at the end, it's a bad ending. And it's like, okay, I like that because it tricked me in a way, but it was a good
because I mean, Fight Club does not end really well.
Exactly. Yeah.
And there are some movies that, okay, this suits the movie. So 7 doesn't end well at all. At all. Again, David Fincher. It's sort of like if the story points toward a sort of we'll call it a point of no return, and things will escalate and there's no turning back from this moment, that's where it's supposed to have that dark ending. And then it ends, and then you think about what was going on. You go back to it in your mind and think. And I love those movies where you have to think. If it just ends badly and there's just, okay, everybody's just dead and there's no thinking involved, okay.
It
I
probably
get that
goes
people
to
don't like that.
talent, you know, and like you said, studio interference, but think of like Empire Strikes Back. That ended badly, right? For the good guys? I would say so. Like it was like a not
They
I mean,
pulled it back a little bit. There's
sure.
hope at the end of there's a sliver of hope at the end of Empire.
Right. Oh
There
yeah, a
is.
little bit. That's fine. But I mean, they didn't win. Like it didn't feel like a win.
No, they
It didn't
didn't
feel like
win, but there's
yeah.
a sliver of hope in Empire. It
And that's why they
ends
did it well.
terribly, and remember, when Empire came out, people didn't know Jedi is supposed to come out after that.
Okay.
Lucas knew, everybody else didn't. So in terms of finishing, and then you waited 3 years for the next one, not the next year, 3 years for the next one, because they didn't even start even shooting that movie. Not to mention the fact that it didn't even have a script.
Yep. And that's so when it comes into like that's talent, as opposed to nowadays, it's like, okay, I could see where you're saying the studio wanted to leave it open-ended because like, hey, maybe we can get a sequel out of it. So we gotta like, you know, not have it where all the characters, you know, die or something bad goes happen or stuff like that. And yeah, and
Just
that's
think
where
about,
it loses me.
think about Back to the Future 2, where they shot it back to back, so we knew the sequel was coming.
1 and 2 or 2 and 3?
2 and 3.
Okay.
They shot 2 and 3 back to back, like together, and then they just cut it and send it out 10 months or 8 months apart.
But that felt like
the Matrix
movie.
2 and 3. The Matrix 2 and 3.
Bad.
They finished 2 on a low note, but with hope, because when Marty loses Doc, it's sort of like, oh my God, I'm stuck. But there's hope because he goes to the Doc from 55. It's like, I'm back from the future. So there's hope for, oh, you're going to take me back. I'm going to get back somehow to my timeline. So there's a little bit of sliver of hope. Rather than
them right when they came
ending.
out. That's a good comparison because Back to the Future, I watched them all together because it was way afterwards.
It's a different experience.
Each one felt like a different movie. Or I guess I knew that they were existed, but at the same time, I thought they could have just been, you know, done. But then Matrix, I felt like robbed because like when I saw I love the first Matrix, and then when the second one came out, and it was a long movie too. And then when it just ended, really left off, be like, that didn't feel like a good ending. And they're like, oh yeah, there's going to be another one, Revolutions. And they filmed them all together. And I'm like, why did I pay for a half a movie? Similar to Mission Impossible, Dead Reckoning part 1. You know, it's like cool idea with the movie and everything, but you just gave me 3 hours of a 6-hour thing that could have been, I don't know. You know what I mean? Just where it's like, yeah, it's
coming back and coming all the way back to Tank Girl. The fact that the ending kind of ends up sort of too much of a happy ending for a wacky kind of a movie like this. You needed a wacky ending and you didn't get the wacky ending. Think, like I said, going back to Deadpool, you have a happy ending, but it's also a little bit of comedic, a little bit funny and crazy at the end. And to top it all off, you've got like Ryan Reynolds going crazy. So you did get a happy ending, but it was also crazy and comedic. And in this one,
good
it's
in
sort
its
of like
own.
we're off to save the girl, kiss the boyfriend at the end. And we killed the bad guys. There's no water and power, but there is water and power. It's sort of like it's a little bit too much. It's a little bit
I
too
see
much.
what you're saying now. It's a shift in tone. It's like the movie told us it was going to be this goofy, or you know, it started off that way with some action, but then it's like, no, we're a goofy movie. Just go with it, with the dance scene, with the you know, all these different goofy things.
And at the end, it wasn't goofy. It was just straight up happy and like a rescue mission gone right. We've defeated the bad guys. The end. And just ended.
Yeah, I mean, they talk about like, Stephen King and, different where they have a great idea and they don't know how to end it.
Yep. And that
Good
kind of
point.
brings us to the end. I know I dragged this up to the murky waters because you seem to, when we talked like backstage before we started, kind of, I had the vibe that you kind of liked this movie, and you may still like it.
I like the nostalgia.
Okay.
Just going back to it. Like I saw the yin yang symbol and like I said, the Gavin Rossdale. I wrote some stuff down. It's just like, all right, cool. I'm having fun. And it was free on Amazon. But now I'm realizing I probably didn't watch the same movie that I watched earlier in my life. But yeah, I mean, they're talking. She's like, "Oh, I got to go watch Baywatch," and I'm like, I haven't even thought about that, especially if they didn't do that movie with
that was a throwaway line. I exactly. It was like
I would have never thought about
Baywatch?
Baywatch. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wish they could have explained it a little bit more of like, okay, why is she stuck? Like, was she in hibernation, from 1995 to 2021 or whatever they're talking about the thing happened? Because her mind would have been filled with more pop culture in that gap period.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
Even when losing those 12 years.
Exactly.
Still, there was lots more that was like, are you still stuck in 90, not 5, but 93? Essentially.
I just want a reason. Like, that's what I say, like the throwaway lines, or give me something about what's unique about her. Because like I went back and watched 12 Monkeys recently. Have you seen that one? Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, Bruce Willis and everything. And it's like, and then Brad Pitt. And then I in my head canon, I try to make the connections between Brad Pitt's character and 12 Monkeys to Fight Club and stuff like that.
No, there is no connection. There's no.
Oh, wait, am I thinking the wrong movie?
You're not thinking about the wrong movie because he's really crazy in both of them.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, between the two. But no, it was, yeah, but they have the different connections of the subculture with that and everything. But no, it's like, I needed more about why she is the way she is.
Yeah.
And that would help.
It's sort of like not explained and is explained by the fact that she's goofy and crazy and wacky. That's about it. Even though you're supposed to like get something of it in the origin story part, which is the first third of the movie, but you don't really get that. Sort of like it kind of relies on the fact that you may or may not have read the comic book and liked it, which maybe the people who actually paid $6 million in the box office were fans of Tank Girl for some reason, but
that's all you're going to get. You're not going to get the mass crowd, and if that's what you need to make back your 25 million plus more, that's why I always wonder. It's like when they invest 25 million or whatever they amount, it's like, what exactly are you expecting? Is it going to be an off the wall thing, or do you want to get it back on physical media? Which
in 1995,
Austin Powers is why that
in
did so well,
1995,
that's how that got a sequel, or even more money for the sequel, and later on the other ones. But yeah, we don't have the physical media like we did before to make up that lost theater revenue.
1995, they expected,
and I lost sound from you again. I'm going to jump out and come back in.
I need to wrap up the show. All right, guys, I'll wrap up the show and wait for Drew to come back to just give him his last say. But in 1995, they expected essentially another. Are you here with me?
Yeah, and it messed up my. There you go.
Okay.
I can hear you. Can you hear me here?
I can hear you as well. Yes.
I'd rather not wear those.
In 1985, they expected another Batman type of hit, but they could not get it. Even Batman in 1995 could not get it. Oh, it
Batman
did
Forever, right? If I remember.
Yes, it's the Val Kilmer one.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's sort of like they went to, in the 90s, they went to the comic book section and they did try a lot and they failed a lot. 1995 was also a Judge Dredd with Sylvester Stallone, another bomb. So they did try.
I'll watch Judge Dredd every day.
I personally, I do love the movie, but I can't skip the fact that it's not a good movie.
Right.
So they did try to go to like the more obscure characters that they got really cheap in terms of like rights, but they couldn't work it out because it was a push and pull always between what the studio wanted, the director wanted, and the original creators wanted.
Okay.
And that clash was all throughout the 90s. It worked in one movie that was not like your big DC or big Marvel. One movie. You know which one it was? It was Blade.
Oh, okay. Why? I got a lot of questions. I wonder why. Well, first of all, like, where would you rank? Like, we talked about a few of those ones: Tank Girl, Super Mario Brothers, Judge Dredd.
Oh, very low. Very low.
No, out of
Sadly,
those
very
ones.
low.
Oh, you're saying Tank Girl below those two?
I would rank Tank Girl above
If you're talking about quality.
Super Mario in terms of quality, because Super Mario was really terrible. Really, really terrible. It had a little bit more cohesive story and better characters. Judge Dredd had a cohesive story way better than Tank Girl.
And that's maybe
again, it's not the best movie in the world, but Sylvester Stallone kind of carries it on his back.
Yep. You get the comic relief from the other guy.
From Rob Schneider.
Rob Schneider, there you go.
Right. I need to wrap things up, Drew, because I need to get up to go to work in about less than 5 hours. So I'm sorry, but please plug your wares while we're here.
Yeah, Operation Outstanding in Field is where I do speaking engagements, adaptive sports. My body's pretty jacked up from the last couple years, so I got paralysis, and so I do adaptive sports. So a lot of speaking engagements, adaptive sports on that one, and now I'm starting to launch my own channel when it comes to physical media. So more to come on that one, but otherwise, Drew Outstanding is where you can find me talking about all kinds of stuff.
Right. So please go and subscribe, and we're both sort of simulcasting to your channel as well. So
yeah.
You know, we'll see what happens with that. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that kind of brings us to the end of the show. But remember, we're still in Bad Comic Book Adaptations month. So next week, go watch Batman and Robin, the Clooney Batman, because it is ice to see you. Yeah, that's what we're going to cover next week. Hopefully, Mr. Oma Feelings will be here, and hopefully all of you guys will join us in a very hearty discussion. I'm trying to get Tom Connors to come on the show because he actually loves Batman and Robin for a very weird and odd reason. But hope you enjoyed the show, and remember, guys, hope is a good thing. Maybe even the best of things, and no good thing ever dies. We'll see you next week. You're still here? It's over. Go home.